Colin Powell once said, "There are no secrets to success. It's the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure." And we couldn't agree more. This is Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. We'll talk to people from all walks of life and pick their brains about their journey, the process, and the ups and downs to becoming successful. You want inspiration and motivation? It all starts here. This is the Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. And now your host, Kyle Sullivan.
What's going on, champions? Welcome to another episode of Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Today, we have a guest, Mondoe Davis. He's a speaker, author, pastor, and entrepreneur. Sounds familiar. We got very similar paths, my man. Mondoe is a professional football player in the NFL with the New York Jets, former national champion at the University of Delaware. He's a coach and consultant in clarifying vision, strategic planning, effective communication, self-care, leadership development, motivation, and personal leadership. Who doesn't want that? He's consulted with companies like JPS Health Network, United Healthcare, Amber Specialty Pharmaceutical, and churches nationwide. Mondoe's energized and strategic approach is a true asset to your organization and a true asset to Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Mondoe Davis, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Hey, I'm so honored to be here, Kyle. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on Unleash the Champ. Couldn't think of a better person to host a show like this. So honored to be here. Thank you for allowing me the privilege and honor to speak into your audience. And I'm looking forward to what we're going to talk about today.
Listeners, Mondoe and I met at the Great American Speak Off, and it was just incredible. To the moment he opened his mouth, it was energy, it was excitement, and it was passion. You could tell that. And Mondoe, we read your bio. What you've done is absolutely incredible. But who is Mondoe Davis behind the bio?
Well, first of all, Kyle, it was an honor to meet you at the Great American Speak Off. We had such a great time there. I really felt a connection with everything you were communicating, everything that you talked about related to your family, it related to the things that God was doing in your life. Man, I was like, this is a guy I need to connect to. So I'm so honored that we kept in touch and we became friends. In regard to your question of who I am behind the bio, first and foremost, I'm a son of the Most High God. And my relationship with Jesus Christ means everything to me. So I'm a son first. And my identity is not only in who I am, but it's in whose I am. That's the number one thing. Number two, I'm a husband. And I'm married to the finest woman on the planet, ladies and gentlemen, my lovely wife, Lisa Davis. And I call her my shero. Yes, I did say that correctly. There's an S on the front of hero because we've been together 20 years, married for 17, and she's given birth to 10 of my children. And yes, we have 10 kids together. She pushed every one of them out, y'all. So I know some of you thinking, do you watch Netflix, bro? Listen, that's much more fun, okay? So we enjoy doing that. Do y'all have any hobbies? That is our hobby. So my wife, and I's relationship is incredible, man. We've been together for 2 decades, and she's amazing. And then next, I'm a father. You know what I mean? I love my kids. We have 6 girls and 4 boys. And it's one of my favorite things to do on the planet is pour into the next generation. And then outside of that, I'm a servant. I'm here to help serve and help people connect to their purpose so that they recognize that each of us were born with a solution to someone else's problem. And when we step into that solution individually, collectively, we can change the world.
I love that, man. It's folks, the running joke I always hear with couples that have a lot of kids is, the husband will say, "No, it's not that I love kids that much. I just love my wife that much." and so that was Pastor Craig. I was on staff at Life Church for a while, and they have 6 kids, and that was his running joke always. Is he's like, "No, I mean kids are fine, but I really love my wife. So you really, really love your wife." And so that's incredible, man. So take us back in your journey, because you're a part of a 0.01% of people who start the journey of playing football that actually make it to a professional level. Yeah. Despite what, the fathers on the sidelines of the Pee Wee think that their kids go into the combine and go into the league at 4, you actually did it. And so talk about the journey of, man, what was your mentality around starting playing sports and then getting to that level that is the pinnacle that so few people get. There's so many lessons in that you can teach on. I'm certain.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like any other kid, right? The dream is there. I remember, back when I was 7 years old is when I really fell in love with football. I had a picture of Randall Cunningham on a poster right above my bed. We lived in Philadelphia, about 7 minutes walking distance from Veterans Stadium. And man, I fell in love with the game of football. I fell in love with watching a scrambling quarterback run around. But I was horrible, Kyle. I stepped on the field. I remember it was so bad. Me and my brothers were out there playing in like Pee Wee League. And he literally ran at me and one of my brothers hit me in the stomach with his helmet. And I was like, oh, and I bent over and I started wailing and crying. And my dad took us home, and he's in the military. So my dad's 6'2", all muscle, mom's about 5'2", all pit bull. And my dad and mom were like, look, we pay for these pads. Y'all going to play this game at least one season. You ain't got to never do it again for the rest of your life. But this one season, you're going to do something with this. So we get in the backyard, and my dad fills up his Army duffel bag with towels and sheets and pillows. And then he just starts getting into like sergeant mode on us, bro. He was like, yo, get in the 3-point stance. Come on, hit this bag. Let's go hit the bag. Ah! And me and my brother's like, and he just bam, bam, bam. And we show back up in practice the next week, Kyle. And man, we are just demolishing everybody. And the coach is like, what did you do to your sons? Like, how did you do that? And bro, it was something just lit on the inside of us. So fast forward from being a little kid and not really seeing the value in the athletics or sports. And the next thing you know, man, this thing's starting to catch fire. So by the time I'm in high school, man, we go to a brand new school called Woodside High School in Newport News, Virginia. And I sign up to play football. I'm running track. I'm playing basketball. I'm doing all the sports. But then it gets to a point where we're playing and it's a brand new school. We don't have a senior class. And man, we are horrible, bro. We literally went 0-10 our first year. Didn't win one game. But wait, there's more. We come back for year 2. And Kyle, we didn't win a game in year 2. But wait, there's more. We come back in year 3, bro. And we are 0-10. We went 0-30 in 3 years. I was so frustrated. I got into my senior year and I was thinking to myself, this is, I'm done. I'm out here punishing my body, going through this blood, sweat, and tears. And I come home after a game. I'm all pimple-faced and scratches all over my face. I'm sweaty after the game. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm done. I'm quitting. And she was like, okay, why? And I was like, because we haven't won a game in 3 years. What am I doing? I'm wasting my time. She said, before you quit, I want you to do one thing. I want you to go into the bathroom. I'm like, okay, Mom, where's this going? She's like, then I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to ask yourself one question. And the question is, did you give 110% and do your very best? Did you unleash the champ inside of you? And I thought to myself, this is dumb. Like, why am I going to do that? She's like, just go do it. And then come talk to me afterwards. So I go and do it. And Kyle, when I do it, I'm looking into my eyes, looking at myself, and I'm like, ah. But then there was this moment where I connected, where it's almost as if I was able to look into my own soul. And I knew I couldn't lie to myself. And I had to have a one-on-one moment with the man in the mirror. And I had to ask the question, did you really give everything that you have to this and give yourself an opportunity? And after a few moments of silence and really reconciling my own efforts with where I was standing in that moment, I realized that, yeah, the answer is yes, I did. I came back and told my mom. My mom said, okay, then there's 10 other guys on that field that you're not responsible for. So what I want you to do is know that this is going to pay off for you as long as you do your part and you show up as a leader despite what the other guys are attempted to do. Well, little did I know it would lead to a full scholarship to the University of Delaware, where after coming from a losing school, I'm now a part of a championship school. And after getting beat 3 years in a row and not winning any games, we now go to a college where we're winning national championships. And we're a college champion. We won the game 40-0. And I knew what it felt like to be on the other side of that. But I sure felt like, man, this is much better on this side. And then the next year we came back and we were conference champions as well. And then it led to the opportunity to go and play with the New York Jets as an undrafted free agent. And it was just an incredible journey to get there. So.
Holy crap. There's so much to that, man. So kudos to you. Most in today's age wouldn't have made it past the first season without just hanging it up. So talk about the importance of grit and perseverance and what kept you in it when like even before you got to the moment of like, man, we're 0-30, like F this, like I'm done. How did you stay in it that long? Because there's a lesson in that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, like I said, my dad was in the military, so very disciplinarian background, authoritarian background. My mom actually worked in a correctional facility as a maximum security prison guard in an all-male prison. So we were raised in a very, very disciplined format of like, hey, once you commit to something, you need to follow through and finish it. But then on the other side, my parents are also the most supportive, encouraging people you'll ever meet as well. So the mindset was kind of ingrained from that perspective. But my dad sat us down, and Kyle, here's where the real shift took place from being a child to becoming a man. And that was when I turned 16 years old. My brothers were both 13. They're twins, identical twins. I'm the smallest one in the family. And my dad sat all three of us down and he said, listen, guys, I want y'all to know something. I can't afford to pay for your college. So if you guys want to make it, you're going to need to go to college, number one. But number two, you're going to need to get a full scholarship. You could do that one of two ways, or one of three ways. One is academics. Number two is your sport. Or number three is you go into the military and go and do the GI Bill. So academically, I wasn't a straight A student. I got good grades, but it wasn't good enough to get a scholarship to college. I was a 3.0 to 3.5 student. So that option was out for me. So my next option was football. And when I realized that my college education was on the fringe of how well I performed, I took it to a whole different level mentally. And I realized that this is no longer a hobby. This has now become my job. And when I took on that mentality and somebody lined up in front of me and I realized that they were the ones that may be standing in the way of my scholarship, I was like, oh, I'm about to run through you like paper, bro. It's over. Let's go. So I was like, I had a whole different mentality, a whole different drive, because I connected to something deeper. And I feel like for those of you who are watching, when you think about vision, you got to have vision. And that's what my dad did. He gave us the gift of vision to see something for ourselves that we couldn't see before. And when we have that vision in our hearts, it changes the way we approach life. It changes the way we approach obstacles. It changes the way we approach adversity. And it gives us the fuel to surmount the insurmountable obstacles that come into our lives.
Yes, and amen on that, man. It's if more people viewed their actual job like a job, they would be more successful. And whether you're an entrepreneur in a company or an entrepreneur, or you're building something alongside, it's a bit of a lost art, what you just talked about, man. Having the diligence and the grit and the perseverance and the vision of this is what's standing in my way. The obstacle is the way. The obstacle is the way to what you wanted. And so I love that, man. So you make it to the league, undrafted free agent with the Jets. And then what happens after that? Because football, doesn't last forever. And I've heard, I interviewed another guy that was in the league, and he said the NFL stands for not very long.
That's right.
I was like, oh, all right. So what's post the league look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So suffered an injury in the league, career-ending injury. Everything goes black, testing my knee. Hey, torn ACL, you're out for at least 18 months. I'm thinking my dream is shattered. I'm pinned to the mat, kind of watching it go down the drain. I can't do anything about it. And then I recover from the injury. I come back in, and then I step back on the field. I get my position changed to play safety my second year. And I step out on the field at the end of training camp and hit the side of a pylon, bro. And my ankle almost popped. It just went completely flat, like boom. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? So I couldn't put any pressure on it. I was out for like 3 weeks. And then as soon as I dressed, that was the end of that season for me. I got released and wound up going to Canada, playing in Canada for a season with the Montreal Alouettes. And then I finished up the next year in the Arena Football League, and I played with the Montana Billings Outlaws. And I realized at that point that there's more for me than just football. And although this was a great season of my life where I got to play a kid's game for a king's ransom, it's not who I am. It's something that I do. And at the age of 26, I found myself having to get to that point after going through what I call a quarter life crisis, feeling depressed, not knowing what to do after getting my master's degree in college, getting my bachelor's degree, doing everything that everyone told me to do, but yet it seemed like the system failed me. And that's really what birthed the desire to step into a space of really understanding my purpose. And from there, that's where I feel like the Lord showed me, the enemy whispered in your ear and said, NFL for you means not for long. But God came along and said, no, it means newfound life. And now you get to step into your true destiny and help people with a platform that I don't need football to do. All I need is a willing vessel. So I stepped into that space. And for the last 16 years, I've been helping people in that capacity through ministry, speaking, and writing as well, and coaching and consulting.
I love it, man. And what I love about that is that's a moment we all have to get to, whether or not, you're listening to this right now. Most listening did not make it to the level of athletics you did, but you made it to a point in your career where you go, oh man, I'm making a shift. And I thought I was always going to be this thing. Or, I thought, 12 years as a pastor and some of the most attractive, fastest growing, like, oh, look at me, churches, to then go, oh, I'm gonna give all that up to start this idea and this phrase of Unleash the Champ. Like, that's scary. And so talk through the transition. Somebody that is going, okay, I have maybe a new purpose that I'm feeling drawn to, and I'm on that fence. Talk about that fence moment of going, all right, here's how I push my chips in. Here's how I make the first step, because I feel that's the scariest. I mean, once you take the first one, your momentum kind of goes and you'll at least take 2 or 3 more. But talk about that, because I know that's a pillar of what you do is the purpose piece. I mean, inspiring with purpose is your deal. So talk through people in transition of purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm going to do for those who are listening is give you an acronym. And if you're in your car driving, or if you're in a place you can't take notes, you can rewind this and listen to it. If you can't take notes, I want to encourage you to write this down. And the acronym is the word agape. Okay. And agape, as many of you know, especially if you're in a church world or you grew up in church, you know that is a Greek word for the word love. And there's many different words to describe the word love. We say, hey, I love the hot dog and cheesecake. I love you as my wife. I love my job. I love these chips or this toy. But when you look at the word and you break it down, this word agape is an unconditional love that never changes. So when you're talking about how to transition successfully, we come to a point where we have to realize that there's a number of different stages that we go through to do that well and step into the next season successfully. Okay. So when you're looking at this phrase, agape is broken down into an acronym, and there's 5 different words that I'm going to give you guys. Okay. So if you're ready, the first letter is an A. And this is a season where we come to a point of recognizing that everything from the past is now an afterthought. Okay. So we have to come to a point of reconciling the past and realizing that this is now an afterthought. And when you study this out and you recognize that it's time to move forward by looking at the rearview mirror, you're going to crash. But when you look through the front windshield, there's a lot more opportunity and there's a lot more road ahead of you. So the past is now an afterthought. And we have to recognize that it's okay to take the lessons from that and now begin to move forward. As you do that, you get to the G, and the G stands for grieve. We have to grieve, and we got to allow ourselves to experience the anger. You have to allow yourself to experience the sadness. You have to allow yourself to experience the forgiveness, and position yourself to go through that emotion of the death of a dream, at least the way you understood it. And that part right there is hard. And that's where most of us get stuck, Kyle. That's where most of us get stuck, and we never make it past that. And we're in that phase for 30 years of our life, and we're still mad, and people can't figure out why. So we have to grieve, and it's okay to let the tears flow. It's okay to let the anger out. Because once you realize that the past is now an afterthought and there's nothing you can do to change it, you don't necessarily always know the future, but you can enjoy the gift of the present. And you grieve the disappointment of what you thought, because that's most times where we find ourselves disappointment because something didn't work out the way we thought it would work out. And because the end result is different, we're now upset, or we feel as if we've been betrayed, or we feel like we've been sabotaged. But maybe God has more for you in this new season, and maybe that was just a part of the process in your development. Maybe that's not your end destination. Maybe it's just a part of the journey. And that's where the true power is. It's in the process. So it's an afterthought. We got to let it go. Then we got to grieve it. Then the next A in agape is to get into alignment. The third letter, the second A, is alignment. What are we getting into alignment with? You're getting into alignment for your assignment. Now we've grieved the process and we're finding out how to align ourselves with what we were truly born to do, which leads to the P, which stands for your purpose. Now we're going to step into alignment for the assignment, which is in the lane of our purpose. And I want to talk about this for just a moment because many times we put so much emphasis and so much pressure on purpose. What's your purpose? Why were you born? You got high schoolers getting stressed out, college students getting stressed out because they don't know. This season is more about finding out what you're not good at and finding out what you don't want to do versus what it is you're actually going to do. And through the process of elimination, you find out that you're in your lane. And in every season you're in, you're actually fulfilling your purpose. If you're in high school, your purpose is to get good grades and to learn how to become a responsible adult. You're learning how to learn. That's your purpose. And it's going to look different. And then when you're in your 20s, it's going to look different than it was when you were in your teens. And when you're in your 30s and 40s, it's going to look different when you were. So every season of our life, we're stepping into our purpose. And then it leads to the E, which is engage. It's time to engage. And it's time to walk in it fully and commit. And once you go through this process of letting go of the afterthoughts, getting to a point of grieving the past and a disappointment, getting into alignment for your assignment, finding your purpose, and then engaging in the process, you find yourself fully fulfilled in every season of life. And I'll close out this thought like this. Many times we go through winter, fall, spring, and summer. There's 4 seasons. But why is it that we feel like when winter in our life comes, that all hell is broken loose and everything's gone haywire? But in the natural flow of seasons, we need the winter because the trees get to shed all the dead weight. They get to shed the old leaves. The tree gets an opportunity to establish the roots and allow the root system to go deeper. And the tree gets an opportunity to rest. So why is it that we would think that we're any different from the signs that we find in nature, where we as people need a season to rest? We need an opportunity to allow our roots to grow deeper, and through the grieving process and through the afterthought and getting into alignment, all of that's establishing a deeper root system so that when spring comes, come on, baby, when spring comes, I'm here today to tell you that there's a new season for you. And when you forget the things of the past and move forward, there's no stopping you. But there's a spring season around the corner for you, no matter what you're experiencing. So be encouraged and know that your purpose is what you're walking in right now, whether it's a winter or a spring season. Hang in there because your time is coming.
Come on now. You take two pastors and put them on a podcast. We're gonna have church. We gonna have church, baby. Pass the bucket. Here's a way you can give online right now. Let's go. Oh man, I love that, man. And it's I love the piece at the end where we try to villainize past seasons.
Yes.
I think about when I stepped out of vocational ministry as my profession, and I learned what it was like to follow Jesus when I wasn't paid to.
Yeah, come on.
People said, well, what really happened? God called me to a new thing. Nah, man, like you could tell me. It's like, nah, it's nothing that was needed. This is needed. 5 years from now, that's gonna be needed. And I think it's, acknowledging that seasons are necessary and that one changing of seasons doesn't mean the past is bad.
Right.
Because we can sometimes get to where it's like, well, we can't do something new because what I have is good.
Come on.
Okay, that great. I mean, I loved what I was doing, but I felt prompted to take a step in a different direction and loved what I was doing, but I was being pulled to a new direction. I was being called, if you say it. My purpose was shifting. And And so I absolutely love that, man. So what are you working on now? What are you most excited about? What's that thing that's lighting you up right now as you inspire with purpose yourself?
Oh man, I love that question, Kyle. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love what you also said, just to bookend the last question about recognizing again that it was one season with this purpose being fulfilled in ministry, and now it's another season with Unleash the Champ. And they're both needed. And when we can recognize that, it changes the game, because now we don't feel like we failed or I missed this window or I'm supposed to be stuck in this season. Listen, all of us have seasons. There's a time and a season for everything under the sun. And when we are able to adapt and shift with those seasons, it makes it a lot easier on us and our mentality, our heart, and our posture in regard to how we show up in the world. So I love that perspective that you brought. And in terms of what I'm working on right now, is helping people to get that. And specifically with Inspiring with Purpose, what we're focused on is based on my story and what I've gone through, is really helping to focus on student athletes and leaders who are in transition, asking the question, what's next? And our problem that we solve is helping them to win in the next stages of life and unleash the champ that they have on the inside of them. Yeah, that's what we do. So if you think about the demographics, we have 90% of student athletes in high school who will not play on a collegiate level in their sport. We have 99% of student athletes in college who will not play on the professional level in their sport. And then you have professional athletes by the thousands who are being cut, released, or getting injured every single year in their sport. So there's three specific groups. And then outside of that, you have leaders in transition. But any high-level performer that has reached the pinnacle of success in their career or in their craft that is experiencing transition has a higher propensity to experience depression or some type of quarter-life crisis in their life, because their identity has become woven into what they do. And they don't recognize that this is not who I am. It's something that I do. So we want to help detach the identity from the activity to help them recognize that this is who you are. That's something that you do. And then walk them through the agape process so they can recognize that God loves them so much that he allowed them to experience that, because they're stepping into a new season where they're going to need those skill sets.
I love that, man. And it's so needed. And I think about I was part of the 90% that didn't play the sport I grew up playing in college. It was a whole nother shift to another sport, but that's for a different conversation. But I remember when I played my last like organized football game. I was 18 years old, just played in the state championship, and I just sat there on the field for like what seemed like an hour going, well, what do I do now? And so the work you're doing, man, is so needed. And I feel it only intensifies in need the higher, someone goes and plays in that. And so that's a really powerful work that you're doing, man. Where can people find out more about it? Where can find out more about you and what you offer?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kyle. We have a number of different ways you can keep in touch with us. The first is go to our website at www.inspiringwithpurpose.com. You can learn all about our services there. We provide coaching, consulting, keynote speeches, and we have a plethora of services to help people in every capacity and every facet to step into this space. Number two, we have a podcast on YouTube that you can follow us with. Go ahead and like, subscribe, and share there. It is the Inspiring with Purpose podcast. You can see the logo right here on YouTube. So if you type that in, you'll hear more amazing stories about people just like you who have overcome insurmountable obstacles and surmounted them. They've taken tragedy and turned it into triumph. And it's just going to really, really get you motivated to continue on and know that you're not alone. And then lastly, you can follow me on social media at Davis Mondoe, DavisMondoe, on Instagram as well. So those are the ways to keep in touch. And man, I'm so honored to be here on Unleash the Champ. Kyle, the work you're doing is so incredible. And you're such a great example of stepping out in faith to really allow people to understand that you don't have to be stuck in the box that society tries to put you in. And you can truly unleash the champion on the inside of you, because all of us have a champion living on the inside of us. And all of us want to be successful. There's not one person on the earth that wants to be a failure. There's not one person walking around like, yo, I just want to suck at life. I just want to suck at everything I do. Not one person. You can find a homeless person and they'll still want to make it, right? So you're helping us to tap into that space. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share this opportunity with you in regard to the motivation and inspiration you're bringing to the world. So thank you.
Man, I concur every bit of that back to you, man. It's you meet people and you have moments where you meet someone and you're like, dang, I gotta be in their sphere. I gotta do that. And you were that person, man. And so I'm really excited for what you're doing. I'm crazy, inspired by the connection of what you're doing with athletes and leaders in transition. I mean, that is my heartbeat because I've lived it a few different times in each of those areas that you're talking about. And so I love what you're doing, man. Before we let you go, we got one more question for you. And I think you're, again, uniquely qualified to answer this. At Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast, what does it mean, Mondoe, to you to be a champion?
Wow, what a great question. What a great way to close out the podcast. And to be a champion, I feel like it comes down to understanding why you were placed on the earth and doing the internal work to get that resolution deep within your soul. And once you have the understanding of why God uniquely made you, do everything in your power to unleash that in the world, because you were born with a solution to someone else's problem. And when you step into that solution individually, collectively, we can change the world.
Come on now. You were born as the solution to someone's problem. I'm telling you, we could just keep having church. Mondoe, thanks so much for being a part of the show and recording an episode. And man, this is first. We'll have to have you back for sure. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Our passion is to talk to successful people and hear all about their journey and what it took to get there. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit up the website at unleashthechamp.com. Find us on Instagram at Kyle J. Sullivan and hit up that Facebook page at Unleash the Champ. Remember, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving.